Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Meaning Behind the Music podcast.
Yes. Episode 2.
Episode 2.
Yeah, episode 1's not released as of yet, but we're going to release episode 2 first.
That's like a Quentin Tarantino thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Start at the beginning. Oh, no, start at the end.
Christopher Nolan. Yeah.
Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
Excellent. I wanted to go back to episode 1, if you can cast your mind back that far. And I'm just wondering if there is any new developments or any housekeeping or anything that you need to bring up from the past episode.
Yeah. So I wanted to start each episode subsequent to the first one going through any additional issues and amendments. So firstly, I wanted to mention that part of the treatment of alcoholism is thiamine or vitamin B1. So the previous podcast was on addictions specifically. Why we need to supplement vitamin B1 in this context is because absorption is reduced and there might be the consumption of empty calories by the person with the addiction. And the vitamin B1 is required to reduce the chance of a brain condition called Wernicke's encephalopathy. The second thing I wanted to mention is that there are a couple of other main indications for medical cannabis. So one of them is for certain forms of pediatric epilepsy, and the other one is for the spasticity of multiple sclerosis. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that the GLP-1 receptor agonist medications, so these are like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro, have shown some potential promise for addictive disorders. However, they're not licensed for that indication in Australia, so the main use is for weight loss primarily. Right. So if people have questions about this, they probably should talk to their general practitioner about it, and they can talk about potential side effects like gastrointestinal side effects and muscle loss.
Yeah, there's just so much to cover, right? It's hard to get it all in one, especially if you're talking to someone like me who has no idea. And it's all sort of just coming at me for the first time and I'm sort of bouncing around. But you've got a new song out. Actually, let's start there. So there's a new song out that you've released. What are the details of the song? What's it called? What's it about?
So this song is called Re-Enact, composed by SFR Beats. Again, I do the vocals. This song is all singing, so there's no rapping in it. And the mixing is by Marco Essoff.
Cool. I've got it here, and I'm going to have a look. I haven't seen this yet. I already like it. I've got Bill Clinton, George W., and okay. That's cool. I'm already getting some hints but I'm gonna start it.
Reenact, bring it back. Fool myself this time that I will keep intact. Reenact the distant past. Hit the gas as fast and my head hits the dash. It's not the same, no, but it's so similar. You bring me pain, but there's comfort in the familiar.
I'm just gonna pause it there. So there's heaps of information here, right? And I'm glad that you didn't rap. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to keep up. But there's a pattern, right? Like I'm noticing there's a lot of pattern, and it's a lot of oil-based patterns here. I will say though, I do love the direction that you've taken with this on your vocals.
Ooh, I'm on this train to hell, you're my deliverer. You took the blame, but I'm a return visitor. I keep saying this time it's gonna be different. Nah, I will switch to winner and victim in an instant. You draw me in, and I did not resist it. It don't feel good, at least it is consistent. I'm not a main character.
Damn.
You just see my avatar. Gonna write a new chapter. Na 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 na. I got a premonition. I'm a sucker for the repetition. Expedition on a demolition. Na, na, na.
It's too real when when you've got the vision of the schools and all the impact of obviously the violence.
Fool myself this time that I will keep intact. Reenact the distant past. Hit the gas as fast and my head hits the dash. compulsion towards you. Forget to keep in view everything you put me through. I'm addicted, you see through my defense. Don't get it twisted, we both know how this ends. Can you see?
So there's a switch here.
Mm.
That's clever. You switched it to like a couple?
Yeah, it's talking about relationships, man. Before it was talking about the Iran war.
Right.
This unfolding tragedy, my pursuit of mastery, got me giving you the master key. Your ghost still coming back for me. I move mountains for you, move mountains for you, 1,000 for you, careful the count for you.
Dude, I'm digging your vocals on this.
Mountains for you.
Thanks, man.
I move mountains for you. You would never recognize the depths of what I would do.
Wow, okay. That was a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot in the sense that you got to listen to the lyrics, but also at the same time see what's happening in the visuals as well.
Yeah.
And the visuals, I'm drawing analogies between Iraq War and Iran War.
Yeah.
And so you have to like kind of see 3 or 4 different things at once.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to ingest everything. Like, what I like about it is the soundtrack that you've provided and you're sort of pacing the lyric that you're delivering in a way that it's kind of, it gives me just enough time to jump back and forth. I'm trying to scan and then take in the visuals. But it'd probably take me a couple of times to absorb it completely. I might do it one more time.
Another listen through.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's good.
Because there's a couple of things there where I missed. I'm trying to put the Iraq War and the Iran War together, and I've noticed that like the petrol prices or the oil prices are spiking.
Yeah, again.
Yeah, very similar to that. I've never noticed that before. Like I guess it was so long ago.
Yeah, and we were probably children back then as well.
Yeah. But and then in the part where they went forward in the Iraq War without consulting the UN.
Yeah.
And this time
it's even worse because he's attacking Iran without going through Congress.
Yeah.
So it's like a trend of like more executive power.
What's that called? Dictatorship?
Or it's like sliding towards authoritarianism. So some will call it democratic backsliding.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of against the ideal of America. I'm just going to go one more time if that's all right.
Yep.
I just need to absorb this.
Reenact, bring it back.
So I'm just going to stop it there. And this is the first scene. I've got Bill Clinton with the domestic issue, which is the impeachment. And then with George W. Bush was Enron.
Yeah.
And that was like the hot topic of the time.
Yeah.
And then now, obviously, with Donald Trump,
And the Epstein files. Yeah.
And it's like, it's this huge distraction, right?
Yeah.
The biggest thing you could possibly do.
Yeah.
It's got to be. It's got to be bigger than like that controversy, right?
Yeah.
How convenient. Far out.
Fool myself this time that I will.
So the US national debt, 39 trillion at the moment.
So what I was trying to say is that like every time they go to war, like they get even more in debt. And America has been in debt for a very long time. But whenever there's a major war, it spikes even further because they've got to pay a lot of the defense contractors.
Why do they keep going to war then?
We'll get into that. But
Okay, I've got so many questions. I don't follow it. You know what I mean? Like I don't really pay attention to it. I kind of know what's going on, but I don't know the backstory. This is all these stats. Like so many questions. Oil prices surge on renewed Gulf tensions. 1987, Iran war continues to escalate fuel prices worldwide.
It's not the same, no, but it's so similar. You bring me pain, but there's comfort in
Venezuela trades crude in yuan, launches petro. How convenient.
familiar. Ooh, I'm on this train to hell, you're my deliverer. You took the blame, but I'm the return visitor. I keep saying
I love how the line, I keep saying that it's going to be, I keep saying this time it's going to be different. And you've got Dick Cheney saying it'll go relatively quickly, 2003. And then Donald Trump projected to, 4 to 5 weeks in 2026. It's hilarious. You've synced up the lyric perfectly.
I will switch to winner and victim in an instant. You draw me in, and I did not resist it. It don't feel good, at least it is consistent. I'm not a main character.
Bro. There's so many people that died.
You just see my avatar. Gonna write a new chapter. Na 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 na.
Man.
I got a premonition.
Yeah, it's that.
I'm a sucker for the repetition.
The elementary school moment is crazy.
Bring it back. Fool myself this time, but I will keep intact.
Yeah, it's this stat here, which I don't quite get. Attacks and storms stretch 350 mile supply lines to breaking point.
So what I'm just generally talking about is when we have wars in the Middle East, it tends to affect supply chains. And so, we're dealing with a lot of issues with oil and gas and fertilizer at the moment. And so there were issues back then, and it's happening now again.
It's happening again. Yeah. Man. Attacks Iraq without the UN, attacks Iran without Congress.
All I do is renew my compulsion towards you. Forget to keep in view everything you put me through. I'm addicted, you see through my defense. Don't get it twisted, we both know how this ends.
I just realized that if I didn't have the visuals of the war in front of me, it would have just been about
love, yeah. About relationships, yeah. That's what it was about initially. It was initially only a song about relationships. I came up with the song, and then the war in Iran happened, and it just so happened that the concept of reenacting previous traumas and mistakes happened to segue perfectly with the song. And I think that goes to the song being relatively general and universal in terms of lyrics. So I didn't spend too much delving into specific relationships. I just wanted something that had applicability in other situations.
Yeah, right.
Can you see this unfolding tragedy? My pursuit of mastery got me giving you the master key. Your ghost still coming back for me. I do mountains for you.
This adds another layer to it now.
1,000 for you. Down for the count for you. Move mountains for you. I move mountains for you. You would never recognize the depths of what I would do.
Guitar beats. You've worked with him pretty much exclusively, right, for a long time.
A lot of my songs.
A lot of your songs, yeah, okay.
SFR beats.
Yeah. You seem to have a pretty good chemistry. And this is another one, you've stepped up your musicality this time, I feel like. Stepping out of the rap world. There's still the hallmarks of a rapper in there.
Yeah.
But you've really embraced the melodic side of rap.
Yeah, kind of going for the approach of someone like Post Malone, for example.
Right.
So how it starts off a rap and then he's starts going into the melodic areas as well.
Yeah, it suits you, man. It suits you. Normally with rap, and I've seen or I've noticed some rappers can struggle, especially if they're coming from a super lyrical background. They really lean heavily on explaining.
Yeah.
At the risk of over-explaining.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And if you can hit the points and just get the idea across in a melodic and digestible way, which is kind of why I guess Post Malone is so popular, and this song does it as well. I feel like then you leave it up to the listener to figure it out as you go, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not like just explaining something to them.
You have to be a bit more creative with the use of spaces and pauses. And sometimes you need to use phrases which might have double meanings, or the person listening can fill in their own meaning. Whereas with a rapper, they have more words to work with and syllables to work with. And as you say, like they might explain a story in a lot of explicit detail, which doesn't leave as much room for imagination.
Yeah. I think as well, when you start to step into this world, it's kind of like you're like what you just said, like you're using less tools. You have all the tools, but now you just know which tools to use, because you don't always use all the tools all the time, right?
Yeah.
You just use which tool is necessary to get this message across. And the fact that there's a switch and it's relevant to both, and there's a couple of layers here where you've developed, it's pretty impressive, man. There's a lot though, like the video, I'm like going through, I have a lot of questions. Yeah. So the concept behind it was you just started off as a love song, you were saying, and that's just the way that it was developing.
Yeah, so how it started is that I wanted to sing an alternative R&B song, and I wanted the mood to be dark and introspective. So I couldn't really have a topic that was lighthearted or optimistic.
Right.
So I chose the topic of repetition compulsion. So it's a Freudian term about the unconscious psychological pattern of recreating past traumas and painful relationship dynamics and self-defeating behaviors. So initially, I wanted the song to just be about unstable relationships. However, in the last few weeks, the war in Iran developed, and I noticed that the world was falling into patterns that we recognized before. So there's a saying that history doesn't always repeat, but it often rhymes. So I felt that our failure to learn from our previous mistakes was causing a lot of frustration for the average person.
Yep.
So therefore, I wanted to make this lyric video to cover the topic of repetition compulsion from more than one angle.
Yeah, there's a lot in this song. I feel like there's complexity in its simplicity. So what are some of the patterns that you've noticed repeating in this war relative to the previous wars?
Yeah, so there are a number of parallels, and I've come up with a list. So being lied to about weapons of mass destruction, the role of the petrodollar in maintaining American hegemony, the use of war as a political distraction domestically, the death of soldiers and collateral damage to civilian populations, the effect of war on energy security, supply chains, interest rates, deficits, and inflation, the weaponization of transport corridors, the danger of power vacuums, and being told it will be a quick war. And we can delve into that in more detail.
Yeah, because there's so many things that, as I was watching, the music video, it's kind of like in the back of my mind, and when I see it, it's like, oh, that's right, that happened, right? Okay, I remember it was kind of in the news cycle back then, and then it makes it fresh, and then it does make me go, yeah, actually, there is a pattern going on. One of the things that I remember distinctly was Trump was saying that he was against wars, no more new wars, or whatever, right? So if he was so against it and he didn't want to start any new wars, then why is he going in and starting a war?
Yeah. So it's true to say that Trump campaigned on not starting any new wars. And a lot of his MAGA base felt let down by him that he's got involved in this one. So in this particular case, Trump got emboldened because he got away with previously brief shows of American military might. For example, there was the extraction of Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela. There was the assassination of Soleimani, who was the leader of the Quds Force, and there was a 12-day war in 2025. You have to combine that with his tendency to fill his inner circle with sycophants, and also the influence of Benjamin Netanyahu, who's the Prime Minister of Israel. So Netanyahu was probably telling him that there was a narrow window of opportunity to strike when Iran and its proxies were weak, and that he would be lauded as a hero for being the first one to solve the Iran problem.
Right. Is there a difference between the stated and actual reasons for attacking Iran? Because we know that what one person says and what they do could be two different things.
Yeah. So Trump will say that the reason that he attacked Iran was to stop them from developing a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
Which is puzzling because in 2025, at the end of the 12-day war, Trump had said that they had totally obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment program. So then you've got to think, well, which one is it then? So there are a couple of more cynical reasons which might explain why Trump may have attacked Iran in this case. So one of them could be to distract from political issues domestically. So in this case, is to potentially distract from the Epstein files. And the historical precedent I mentioned before was Operation Desert Fox with Bill Clinton and the Enron scandal with George W. Bush. Another potential reason is the petrodollar. So in the 1970s, there was a deal where Saudi oil was sold using American dollars. And this meant that the American dollar increased in demand and reserved its status as a global reserve currency. And there have been a number of instances and associations where there's an autocrat who decouples from the petrodollar and then gets ousted thereafter. For example, Saddam Hussein was selling oil in euros, and Gaddafi had proposed a gold-based dinar to sell oil. And more recently, Iran was selling discounted crude to China using yuan, which is a Chinese currency. And now, also, these leaders are also brutal and unpopular. However, we need to think about the possibility that the petrodollar issue contributed.
Yeah. What's Venezuela's part in this?
Nicolas Maduro was planning a way of decoupling from the petrodollar as well.
Yeah.
And Venezuela has one of the world's biggest oil reserves. Trump will say that the reason that they removed Maduro was because of narco-terrorism. It's a bit hard to believe because of the fact that other states also commit narco-terrorism as well. I think there was just a lot of factors coalesced together, but one of them is potentially the petrodollar issue in Venezuela as well.
Yeah. Now, what are the consequences for Iran? Because I've seen, obviously the imagery of bombing in that Iranian elementary school, and it's devastating. What are the other consequences?
So Iran is a country of 93 million people. Its population is relatively young and well educated, and they've got a very successful diaspora as well. And I'm friends with a number of them. So even before this war, they were struggling a lot with hyperinflation and water shortages. And the government back home is not popular. So only about 20% of the people support it. So when I speak to the diaspora, they tell me that there is a mix of hope for change, but there's also worry about their families back home.
Right.
Now, the USA and Israel have told the Iranian people that they should overthrow their government in favor of a democratic one. And if this happens, that would be amazing and I would support it, but I'm afraid that it won't happen.
Right. The diaspora that's here, do they have different ideas to the Iranians at home?
A lot of Iranian diaspora, they're very talented people. So a lot of them are doctors, engineers, lawyers, scientists. So a lot of them have traveled to other countries like Australia and America. And a lot of them are freedom-loving people who don't want a theocracy. I would say the majority of them, as far as I'm aware, they don't support the regime back home. But even within the country, it's hard to say for certain because it's hard to do polling.
Yeah.
But the estimate is around 20% people back home also don't support the regime because it's deeply unpopular.
Then what are the barriers to establishing a democracy in Iran?
So there's a few reasons. Firstly, Iran has a very entrenched bureaucracy and the power is decentralized across multiple nodes. So if you have a decapitation strike, it won't stop the system from functioning autonomously. Secondly, if you do create a power vacuum, what tends to happen is that the armed groups will take charge because they're organized whilst the civilian infrastructure is collapsing around them. And because the armed groups have emerged from the apparatus which maintained the previous regime, they're actually more likely to be hardline. And thirdly, Iran has quite a diverse ethnic makeup. So about 60% of the population is Persian. However, there are significant minority groups. For example, there's Kurds, the Azerbaijanis, and the Arabs. So there is a risk of the collapse of the Iranian national identity, which is Persian-centric and anti-Western. And then there's a risk of civil war and the risk of sectarian division. And a parallel can be drawn with the de-Baathification of Iraq after the Iraq War, which also led to separatist groups and insurgency.
Right. So what have been the consequences for the world from this war?
Yeah. So right now, the most obvious thing that you and I can see is that the increase in oil and gas prices.
Yep.
So about 20% of the world's oil and gas goes through the Strait of Hormuz, and about 40% of the world's urea, which is needed for fertilizer. So the Iranian military can't match the might of the American military. However, the Iranians specialize in asymmetric warfare. So this is where they use cheap technology to inflict the maximum amount of pain, hoping that other countries will pressure the USA into taking a deal. So in this particular case, they can use mines and drones in order to make passage through the Strait of Hormuz unsafe to the point that insurance companies refuse to insure the ships. And then the flow-on effects from this is food and energy shortages and the increased cost of freight and air travel and inflation and possibly stagnation and increase in spending deficits in the budgets of these countries. Also, the Gulf states are not seen as the safe haven for investment and tourism as they once were.
Right. So they control that Strait of
Hormuz, yeah.
Hormuz.
Yeah.
And that's where all the petrol is, all the oil is.
Some of it comes from Iran as well, but some of it also comes from the Arab countries.
Yeah.
And
it has to go through.
It has to go through, there's a choke point there.
Yeah.
So you either go through the Strait of Hormuz, which is a waterway that leads to the Persian Gulf, or go the other way via the Red Sea. And there's a chance that the Houthis in Yemen are going to block that off as well. We need oil for like trucks, for planes and that type of thing. And so it has all these other flow-on effects.
Yeah. And are there any other oil reserves in the world?
Look, so America is actually energy independent, so they've got a fair few oil reserves.
Yeah, right.
But the issue is that the oil is one big market, and so if you cut off 20%, it affects everyone, including the USA as well. You can say, well, why doesn't America just develop Venezuela's oil reserves? Because America was able to topple their leader. The issue with Venezuela is that their crude is very unrefined and you need specialist equipment in order to develop it properly. And so it could take several years before they could properly develop those reserves.
What are the implications of this war for future conflicts?
So when the USA asked for a UN mandate to invade Iraq and they were denied, they proceeded with it anyway. So you could say that this set up a trend where the rules-based international order was put aside and the law of the jungle prevailed. So this is where might is right and the strong do what they can and the weak accept what they must.
Right.
What's happening nowadays is that Trump has attacked Iran without even getting congressional approval. Now, this might potentially lead to a situation where smaller countries feel motivated to obtain a nuclear weapon for their own defense. So Iran at the moment is much more likely to want to obtain one now. And people look to countries like North Korea. They seem to be shielded from regime change because they've got nukes already, versus Ukraine, which gave up its nuclear weapons at the end of the Cold War. And now look, see what Russia is doing to Ukraine at the moment. So this could potentially lead to a nuclear proliferation, which makes the world less safe overall.
Bro, everybody's going to have nukes. That's crazy, dude. Time to get into the nuke business. Like, what's next?
Trump recently tweeted that if they don't open the strait, then they're going to rain down on Iran, which I don't know what that means. Like, they could be bombing energy infrastructure and desalination plants, which could potentially be a war crime as well. So America really shouldn't be doing that. Iran doesn't seem to be budging at the moment because they know that they're squeezing the artery, which is the Strait of Hormuz. They know that that's a soft spot for America and the rest of the world. So, yeah, anything could happen at this point.
Oh, man. It's wild that Donald Trump talks like that. You know what I mean? He's like a villain in an action movie, in an American action movie at that. You know what I mean? And yet he's the president of the United States of America. Yeah. Are there any other presidents that talk like that?
There's other world leaders who are also bellicose as well. So Viktor Orban in Hungary, for example, is also a right-wing populist. But Donald Trump is, what we can see, he's a symptom of a bigger problem, but he is quite unique in the way that he presents.
Yeah, because we went from people who are actually quite, like, I guess the word's presidential, to Donald Trump, where it's like he's the anti-presidential type of president, right? Like, the language he uses, the way he acts, I guess that's where we're at. Yeah, that dude's crazy, man. Yeah. I will say though, very entertaining.
It's good material for raps, man.
Sort of 2/3 away in the song, the visuals kind of switch, and that was the part where I realized, hey, this song isn't about the war, or it is about the war, it could be about the war, but it's also about relationships. If repetition compulsion tends to re-traumatize people, just like the war, why does it keep happening?
So there's a few possibilities. One of them is that the person wants to recreate the trauma so that they can develop a sense of mastery and control over the trauma in the past and in the present. It could be because they seek out what's familiar, because what is unfamiliar is more scary to them. And another reason is that their development may have been stunted as they were exposed to the trauma, which means they might be trapped in a loop of reliving it.
Right. There's a safety in predicting what's going to happen, even though they know it's going to be traumatic. Like, even though they know it's going to be painful. What's unknown is even more painful or more scary. Yeah. How do we stop this from happening? How do we stop like the re-traumatization from happening?
Yeah. So there's quite a few treatment modalities for repetition compulsion. However, I would say like prevention is generally better than cure.
Yeah.
So our childhood has a really outsized impact on how we are going to be mentally later on in life. So you could spend a few dollars raising your children right and giving them loving, nurturing environments, or you can spend millions of dollars in the mental health system or getting people in and out of prison and getting them involved in the criminal justice system.
Yeah, that makes sense. And as far as in relationships, what are some examples of repetition compulsion?
So there's a few known patterns. So for example, there's chasing emotionally unavailable partners. So this is where someone is attracted to someone who mirrors cold or distant caregivers from the past, hoping that this time they can make that other person love them. They could be recreating drama and chaos. So for example, there might be a healthy or peaceful relationship, but they might sabotage it because they think it's boring. And this might be to replicate the volatility of their childhood. Another one is caretaking. This is where someone sacrifices their own needs in order to manage someone else's destructive behavior. And this might mirror a childhood where a child was made to feel responsible for the happiness of the parent. Another one is chasing abusive relationships. So this is where someone might be stuck in a cycle of abuse, then reconciliation, then calm, then tension, and then abuse again. And the last one is abandonment. So this is where someone might fear abandonment from their partner because they're afraid to be alone or they're insecure. And so therefore they might push their partner away to anticipate this or to test the relationship.
Right. I ran through so many relationships in my head just then. Like you're listing them off. Like, I've seen that before. I've known that before. Like, what's the help? What are the treatments for repetition compulsion in relationships?
Yeah, so there are some general modalities. So an example would be psychodynamic therapy, which explores early life and subconscious motivations as to why past traumas are being reenacted. There's cognitive behavioral therapy, which identifies and challenges dysfunctional, faulty, or automatic thought patterns that drive behavior. There's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. So this is a PTSD treatment, which uses eye movements coupled with processing of the trauma. There's schema therapy, which focuses on challenging deeply held schemas from childhood. There's couples counseling. This is where a couple might get a neutral third-party opinion and they might give suggestions about reframing and redirecting behaviors. So those are general treatment modalities. Now, if someone has specifically borderline personality disorder or traits thereof, that might manifest in repetition compulsion because they might be afraid of abandonment or they might be recreating drama and chaos. So there's a specific modality there that's dialectical behavior therapy. So this therapy teaches emotional regulation, impulse control, and mindfulness.
Right. I just want to go back to the one that you said about the eye movement. What was that one called again?
Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
How does that work?
So imagine if you are walking through the woods and you are scanning for threats. So you might look side to side and there you're not a prey animal anymore. You're taking active steps to ensure your safety in the world. So psychologists thought, why don't we talk about the trauma in a safe environment, but we walk with the patient and then we're going to like scan our environment. But what they discovered is that they don't actually have to walk through the environment. They could just potentially scan side to side with their eyes whilst processing the trauma.
Oh, man, that's interesting. And all of these treatments, they're pretty available?
What tends to happen in our society is that the people who need it the most are the ones who are least likely to be able to afford it.
When you're listing it off, because I hear repetition compulsion and I go, oh, okay, I think I know what that means. And then when you're listing off the examples, I'm like, dude, there's so many examples of it. And it just feels like it's way more common, even the awareness of it. Like, I don't think people know. How would one even be aware that this is a pattern behavior?
It's true to say that initially a lot of people are not aware, especially for the first one or two repetitions of it. Other people might tell them that they're avoidant and they seem to be running away, or otherwise they might be too enmeshed, or they might tell them that they're like recreating drama out of nothing. And if one person says it, there might just be a seed of thought in their brain. But if multiple partners say it, eventually the person might say to themselves that it might not just be that I'm dating a narcissist every single time. It might be that there might be something inside myself which is causing this particular issue.
Yeah, because I always hear, especially in like say the movies or you know Netflix shows or whatever, it's like, oh, they have a type. You know, like I have a type, and it always seems to be that same problem type of character that brings out the same behaviors. But then they're always kind of defensive, like, no, it's not me, it's the person that I attract.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? And like there always seems to be a barrier.
Mm-hmm.
This song is a good way to, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
you know, raise awareness,
Mhm.
especially with linking it to the war
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and relationships. It's clever. Do you see yourself tackling sort of these big issues and like tying it back to sort of more relatable situations?
I do want to make the majority of them at least partly related to health. So, you know, the previous one, addictions, was all related to health.
Yeah.
This one was initially, most of it was related to health. The reason why I took this segue to cover the war in Iran is that it was just such a topical issue right now, and the lyrics are general enough to be applicable to that. The future release going forward, a lot of it will be about discussing health issues.
But yeah, like I do dig the new direction with the melodic vocals and that. So I'm looking forward to. Do you have anything in the works at the moment?
Yeah, I've got a few other things. This one here, I was thinking, oh, maybe I should do a Zouk dance video to it, but it was much quicker to just do a lyric video.
Yeah. And that it hits. I think that one was very effective.
Yeah.
The way you did it.
The important thing is this one is I wanted to come out at a time when it was still topical.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to like release it like 2 years down the line when the war might be finished, but there might be a sectarian division that CNN doesn't care about anymore, you know. So.
Yeah. And it's over. And it's yeah. How have people received it?
So I think it was a bit too complicated for a lot of people. Like I think it was just too much information. But that's partly why I wanted to do this type of format in the context of a podcast. I think it would be easy to digest.
Yeah. I think if I just listen to it when I'm sitting in the car, like just driving somewhere, it would have just been like, oh, yeah, this is a cool tune. But because I'm sitting down with the first sort of scene in front of me and I can already sort of, it's framed. I'm expecting this to be about the war, but then I'm hearing the song about relationships, like, hold on. And then, you know, all these facts and I'm putting it together. So it was nice to be able to have you in front of me going, hey, what's going on here, man? Yeah, I recommend everybody go check it out. It's on 2P's Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah, and Instagram.
So go check that out. It is called Re-Enact by 2P. It's produced by SFR Beats and it was mixed by
Marco Essoff.
Is that the first time he's mixed your stuff?
Oh, no, he's mixed a couple of other microphones as well.
Cool. He did a great job. Did a phenomenal job. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of your music. Thanks for getting me in to host once again the Meaning Behind the Music podcast. Like we said last time, there's not enough podcasts out there, so we have to
do more podcasts.